Hello. Should be good. Your portrait. Oh, where am I? I figured we could do like a deep dive on this temple thing since that was the most requested after the video I did this morning. But then I just got notification that Grace Thorpe was in the chat earlier today. And so at first I thought, I guess she was looking for advice on a debate. I think I misunderstood the what she was looking to do. Because at first I'm like, wait, Ben has a debate with Andrew. This should be fucking funny. Like, so I know some of the drama that's been going on with them. I don't talk about drama on my channel though, because it's annoying personally. But assuming that what I know is current and updated and whatever, I'm like, you're gonna go on a debate to get annihilated on purpose? Like, people are not liking you right now. But then it evolved to some debate on domestic violence laws, which is like one of my faves, one of my fave topics. But I guess it's a debate with Glenn. So I pulled up their stream that's like 7 hours long. I shot them a text, both of them. I don't know. I've been listening to it like the past 2 minutes on my phone, and I'm just like, what are y'all talking about? But I assume that it is a debate on our domestic violence laws good for society. That's what I caught. And Glenn Lawrence is arguing that they are good for society. So he's going to be in the affirmative. So I have not watched their whole stream, so I don't know if other shit changed. I don't know. I don't care. Which puts Ben or Grace or both of them in the negative position, which is, some people would say that it's easier. I don't think it is. I think you got more working against you. I prefer the negative position, but okay, so he's gonna have to argue why they're bad, essentially. Which, okay. Why are you hating? I'm not hating. Ben will smoke Andrew. Oh my God. I was thinking to myself, I was like, let's go back, assuming that Ben is going to do a debate with Andrew Wilson. He wants tips. My God. I'm just like thinking to myself, are you a masochist? Do you like to be stepped on? Does it turn you on? Why the fuck would you do that if everybody hates you right now? You're stupid. And I was thinking, what would I do if my client was Ben Thorpe and I had to convince an entire jury that he didn't mean to abuse Grace, his daughter, on camera by kicking her? God damn. You are the Casey Anthony. You need to go look at the debate. You need to go look at the case of how what's his face got Casey Anthony exonerated. Like, that's what you're up against. But then I was like, wait, so it's now a domestic violence debate. Interesting. With Glenn Lawrence. Okay. Cool. Way different. So I don't know if they're doing both. I don't know. But I was like, oh, that's fun. I'm like, Andrew's absolutely going to set you up and get you to admit all of your wrongdoings, but be buddy-buddy with you about it. And then eventually make it like confrontational, good cop, bad cop vibes. And then showcase how you lied and changed the subject and couldn't stay on topic. And whatever, and how you're an absolutely horrible human beings. It's one of my favorite, strategies, not gonna lie, I think it's the most entertaining. It gets me excited. It gives Jodi Arias, Juan Martinez vibes, like, that's in when you deal with people who are liars, maybe more narcissistic, um, in courtrooms at least, that's the strategy that most prosecutors will use, just from what I've observed, obviously, I'm not a professional opinion, just an observation. Andrew said it's all an act. Grace and her boyfriend, father know exactly what they're doing. Right. It's one of the reasons. Yeah, for sure. I hope you're not talking about me. Everybody knows I'm so anti-Russia. Love you. Like, what? But I realized that this video is on Tim Pool. Damn. Imagine having to go down with that. That sucks. That sucks. And anybody that says that they should have known better, I hear ya, but I really don't think people do deep dives into their employers. They probably should. Definitely a lesson to be learned. But anyways, hello, Simply E. Um, yeah, so I don't know if they're doing a a debate. I don't know, but let's assume. We should probably do the Tim Pool video first. So we did it earlier today, but I figured it's a really good topic to just have like a solid video on it. They do it on purpose so that all the simps can come out of the dark and feel bad for Grace, but that doesn't work on me. Mm. I don't know. I have a hot take. I'm just thinking of all the men that were like, you need to stand on your position the other day. And I'm like, God damn it, but it's so fringe. I don't think they do it on purpose. I think it's just who they are. Unfortunately. I think behavior just trumps everything. It's so hard to like prove intent when you are not in that person's head. It's almost impossible to prove even like a break from reality, which seems so obvious. Like intent seems so not there, but we don't. I forget the percentage of people that should probably get an insanity defense, and they don't get one. We're not there. We're not evolved. Hopefully one day, but I'm just thinking to myself, like, it's so hard to prove intent, no intent. Well, actually, it's easy to prove intent. I feel like people will find anything to be evidence of intent. Just the matter of like Googling, just like trying to think of, hi, hi, Dad. um, hold on. I'm thinking like I don't know all the details of the Grace and Ben Thorpe thing, but what I do know is that well, actually, I don't know if it was an isolated incident. Rue, that's a bark of somebody's here. Hold on. Yeah, it was the annoying dog. The other black and white dog, we don't like it. I'm just kidding. But I was thinking to myself, I genuinely don't know the whole Ben Thorpe, Grace Thorpe drama, but let's assume that it was an isolated incident. It would be really easy to prove intent there. Just because he doesn't have a past behavior of it means that this is out of character for him. So, back the intent. It's stupid. I don't think it should be that way, but it's why prosecutors bother me. But that's not what we're talking about. And I don't know if that made sense. Let me drop. Yeah. Anyways, I'm trying to keep up with chat. Y'all are always popping. I saw right through Grace, and one time she let it slip out during a live stream that it was all an act and she was trolling. Yeah, but that could also, sure, you're not wrong. Definitely not wrong, but I feel like that could have been a justification for why Ben shouldn't be in jail. Like, that's like an easy defense, you know? It's hard to tell. She knows exactly what she's doing. It's certainly all for content for sure, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like we have a tendency to default to like we know exactly why somebody did something because we know why we did something, right? But it's really hard to know for sure, especially when you're dealing with like parasocial relationships and an online persona and off persona. It just gets incredibly tricky. I don't know. I don't like Grace. I like you because at least you're honest with people to a fault. To a fault. Um, but I think Grace is funny, wild, great content creator, just different. That's all. Melanie. Oh shit. Tim went from debating reasonably smart leftist to idiot right wingers. Crazy and totally unpredictable. How? Do you have time to talk about Ryan Reynolds? Ryan Reynolds. Sure. What do you believe in? Mm. Always be careful of who your friends are. Yeah, for sure. Who benefits? That's how I deconstruct. Actually, that's a really good way to do that. Truth hurts. Who benefits? I don't trust that girl because she lies all the time. That's another thing, though. How do you know when somebody's lying? And the reason I say this in particular is because timelines are really big for people, like knowing exact dates, times, where you were. And then later, if you get that wrong, and if you say the wrong time that something occurred that you said before, people are like, see, it's a lie. And I know from firsthand experience just how much PTSD can affect, timelines in people. Like, it's almost like all your thoughts are scattered in your brain, and until you get therapy of some sort, whatever that means to you, it's gonna be really hard to put those files back together so you can get a clear, cohesive so even lying or I'm just really I don't know, I try to assume that most people are good, but then again, I don't pick up on social cues, and I feel like it's one of my greatest flaws, so maybe everybody is lying, I'm just assuming they're not, I don't know. I stopped watching her content a long time ago. My people take lying very seriously. Yeah, yeah. But there's also different types of liars too. There's there's the lying by omission. I remember when I figured that that exists, like all my bitches right now are probably like, yes. When you're in a relationship, it's like, but you didn't tell me that. That's a lie. I'm sure it happens in the reverse. Don't get me wrong. But there's been multiple times where I'm like, Google it. I'm insane though. But then there's also like pathological lying. You know, the people that lie about what they had for breakfast, stupid shit. And you're just like, what was the purpose of that? Was there a purpose? And if it's pathological, are they accountable? Especially, are you high? No, don't smoke. Learn to read. Hi, Adam. How are you? Always good to see you. It's no joke. In my religion, we don't lie. Why isn't lying a criminal offense? I feel like it should be. That's actually, it might seem like a dumb question, and maybe it is, but it's like, why? A lot of times, like things that you want to prosecute, like on a personal level, low, hold on, prosecute, like defamation cases, like take them to court, libel, slander, whatever. It's like, how do you prove that they lied? It's like, God damn it. Why isn't that just like illegal? Then it'd be a lot easier to prove that, I feel like. Well, we would at least have it defined, like what constitutes. So anyway, yeah, lying under oath. Yeah, but I mean like think of it this way. If I have a boyfriend who lies and cheats, I'm gonna drag his ass in court because he lied. Because I wouldn't hang out with you. Oh, actually, that is kind of a thing right now. Was it coercive? Anyway, let's not get too lost in the sauce. Kind of my thing. Put a 1 in the chat if we should do the Tim Pool video first. Put a 2 if we should stalk Grace and Ben Thorpe's live stream and see what they came up with for their debate. It's just very serious in my religion. I'll admit no one's perfect, but we try to do our best not to sin. But if it does happen, we do our very best to not sin again and apologize and ask for forgiveness. I agree. One of my big things, if I haven't harped on it, it's like always tell the truth. Like it's always served me so well. And maybe you can get ahead by lying. I'm sure you can. I'm sure people do it. But man, to have a web of lies to deconstruct with every single person, people don't forget shit, you know? You might think you told them this version of the story, but the people aren't stupid. And character always trumps shit that people say about you. So if somebody's going to say, horrible things and lie, might as well have, like, a good track record of honesty. The sooner, the better. Have you studied deception analysis? No, I have not. One of my bigger pet peeves in YouTube spaces is, like, body language analysts. I know. The red pill loves body language. I hate it. I think it's the stupidest shit. I think it's impossible to tell when people are lying. I think one of the things is, like, looking off to the left. I was like, "I do that all the time, and I am not lying." But it's like to people that believe shit like that, they would think I'm lying. It's like, no, I just have a really hard time with, like, eye contact. But in person, I always look to the left. Just like one thing. It's up to you. It's your channel and what you wanna do. I'll support it. I love you. I love this man. Oh, no, I can't. This girl Truth Heart says, "This girl I really wanted to be with, and she told me I had to see a shrink before she would date me because I would lie for no reason." I don't wanna overgeneralize. I'm not gonna. But there's this book, I'll blame it on the book right now. There's this book called What Men Don't Want Women to Know by Smith and Foley, I believe. And it's a book written by 2 men that came out in the '90s. And the first half of the book, like a good chunk of it, is men they're saying, like, men have a default of lying. You should always assume that everything that comes out of their mouth is a lie. All of it. They will deflect. It really fucking jaded me, I'm not gonna lie. But I was actually having this conversation today, and I'm, like, thinking to myself, why is it that I've had successful relationships in terms of, like, communication and whatever? Probably because I say what I mean, and I'm pretty obvious when I don't mean what I say. Does that make sense? No? And it's like, I I find that just being straightforward, men are simple, yo. Not all men, but if you're straightforward, I feel like none of that deception shit, or it's at least mitigated, seriously. And if somebody brings something to you, a criticism, the more that you can remain, like, stable and not get defensive, then they tell you the truth, you know? People will say, and it's a generalization, but, like, women don't wanna know the truth. I think it's so stupid. But it's like, if every time somebody tries to tell you the truth and you're like, "No," then why do you think there's a pattern that continues on, you know? Like, anything that I ask that I know I don't wanna know the answer to, I will literally be like, "Do I look fat in this? Don't answer that. I don't want to know. Lie to me." You know? But I don't know. Is that just like, I don't know. I feel like self-awareness is just gonna be the absolute death of me. Lenny. Even better, admit your flaws to disarm your opponent. Ooh, admit your flaws to disarm your opponent. Yeah. I don't know if this is a good example, but me saying, "I'm triggered." They're like, "Whoa, somebody admits defeat right now? Shit." And then they lower their defenses. I don't know. After 18 years of marriage, tell me she never loved me and she cheated on me and she got all my wealth because she was a stay-at-home mom. I'm smiling, but I shouldn't be. After 18 years of marriage, tell me she never loved me and she cheated on me and she got all my wealth because she was a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. I keep telling men, You want a traditional housewife. The stats are not in your favor. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Are you rich yet? Are you rich again? They took the wealth. Was this recent? Don't give up. Get back in the game. Life's a game. You got rich once. You can do it again. Sorry. Is that not helping? I wish a lot of people out in the world would be like the people in my religion. We're always building each other up, encouraging one another, and helping those who need help in life being peaceful. Yeah. I don't think you need religion for it, but it certainly helps getting clear. Chris Rock said you can always add want some D after anything a man says. Dude, one of my favorite de-escalation tactics is like the tits. It was way funnier like a year ago. Now it's just like a slippery slope. Slippery slope. Fuck your tits. Most of the time it works. Gets them to shut up. Ocean pool. Don't know. Don't care. Carl, not all men lie to women. Just the men who have shit character do. Yeah. Embedded confessions leakage. There are plenty of ways to see through the lies. See, what about people that lack social skills? I stutter. I suck at timelines. I'm better at it now after therapy. God bless. But you know what I mean? I'm not smooth and why are you asking me these questions? You know? Like people get defensive. Doesn't necessarily mean they're lying though. I don't know. Maybe I'm just I see too much good in people. Ideally, it doesn't take religion to do that. Yeah. Secularism has no answers for it. Prenuptial, no justification. In a way, if you're religious, you are pre-programmed to lie since that's what your pastor is doing. Again, y'all, anti-theist. I feel like we're projecting when we say shit like that. Am I wrong on this? I could be. I can't like I'm so cautious before I think I know why somebody did something. How do you guys know that they're lying on stage? How do you know that? Can you tell me that? Can you break it down? We have no problems in my religion following that peaceful attitude, but what's the world's problem really makes you think who's on the right side. Rue. No, Rue, don't do that. I'm muted. God damn it. My dog just ran under there. She got excited. She heard my dad open something. She just boom, just with she likes to have the blanket wrapped around her, so she runs around without being able to see. You know what I mean? It's so funny. Like, "Oh, here we go. Have a baby with Justin Wallen." No offense. We would make beautiful ginger babies. But I don't wanna be a single parent. Love you. What the fuck, Torsha? Torsha's always right, but never correct. That's fair. I'll take it. I experience most things we have been told are lies. See, I see things like I don't think that we have the language to describe certain things, but that might be a hot take. Why do you stream on YouTube Short? It helps build audience better and the retention is better. I will switch off, but we're growing, okay? We're growing. Melanie says, "You just learn to recognize disingenuous people with experience." I just don't maybe nobody can and people just fake it well sometimes. I don't know. I'm like, the reason that I struggle so much with this could be the brain damage. But more specifically, I think it's because I've seen how the mind unravels. So, like, lack of capacity, no insight, day by day, like studying it almost and being in workshops, and then also other experiences where I would be like actually at the house where a crisis would happen. But that stuff in particular is tricky because I could have been totally projecting my own experience because it's a fight or flight. So I don't know if that's really like evidence at this point, but I feel like we we have like a sense of like we love to think we know why we behave certain ways. Like, and hear me out. I know this is a hot take. I know I have people who are religious that follow me. Free will is absolutely like necessary for your framework. I'm just offering a second one. It's like we can acknowledge that there's certain circumstances where people lack capacity and act in a way that they wouldn't normally act. Things like epileptic seizures. Epileptic seizures are neurological disorders. They're not because somebody slept with Satan. We know that children who have learning disabilities are not children being lazy and unmotivated. Turns out there's cortical malformations. We know when somebody is completely inappropriate in their behavior, it's because they have a it's because they have a neurological disorder called schizophrenia. Jesus, it's been a minute. Most of us have gotten to a point where free will has been subtracted out of the equation. So it's like we can recognize that there's some moments we don't have full capacity. But like, why is it so difficult to maybe question if we have any at all? Because it's like, how can your brain differentiate? Hear me out. Okay. I got to get better at communicating this. You're telling me that there's certain circumstances where you can be absolved of having full capacity to make a decision. We can recognize that, but it can't possibly be all the time. That's delusional to me, right? But we like to know that we can change our circumstance. We like to know that we don't have to be the dog that gets zapped and stops jumping over the fence, Pavlov or whatever. We like the idea that you change your environment, which if you change your environment, changes that causal chain of like determinism. So it's like determinists, myself included, realize that it's probably more random than you think. Not as linear, like, I know that if I get up at this time, XYZ will happen. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm losing my train of thought. I don't know. It's like, if we can recognize that we don't have the capacity in certain circumstances, then why is it so hard to assume that maybe we don't have any at all? And that's a really tough pill to swallow. And I recognize that free will is not just a thing that people need in religion. Uh, Drug rehabs, addiction rehabs, it's the whole, uh, like, AA is structured around being able to make the right decision, right? What do you tell an addict? "Oh, sorry, you can't change." That's not it. You can set environment's huge. If you can set your environment right, I think it will push you in another direction. I don't know. I'd be curious to know how, the Netherlands in particular deals with addiction. I know that last time I checked, they view it as the same as that's not how I should word it. For a long time in this country, we have separated addiction from, like, a mental health or physical health. A lot of people don't think that it's a disease because it starts with a choice. Um, I don't believe them. I think it is a disease, but that doesn't matter. Essentially, we have separated it, and it's led to people we've separated it. Personally, pause. I think that they should be treated the same. In the Netherlands, I believe they've been treating it the same for a long time. And the reason I say the Netherlands in particular, for those that are like, "It's always a Nordic country," right? I don't even know if that's a Nordic country, I can't read a map, but it's because there was a famous let's see if my brain can recall. There was a famous psychiatrist, maybe psychologist, who realized that, people's strange behavior wasn't necessarily demonic. So there's been a belief since before we even really had medicine. It's like if people were a little odd, people were like, "Oh, due to a witch or something, like demonic, possessed, whatever." And there was a man, I think his name was James or Jean-Pierre. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Hold on. Something Pierce? Or am I getting confused from earlier? Anyways, there is a there was this manuscript of how to identify demons, and it was like, fuck, wild. It's in French, I believe. There's been a few translations of it, and anyways, it was like pivotal in modern medicine today. I think, what's his name? Freud. Freud has said about this manuscript that this man wrote to debunk the original manuscript. Freud has said it has been absolutely monumental in modern medicine because it was the first time that it's not necessarily magic. Okay, there's something else going on, like a disease. What's his name? Why is James Madison come up? I hate my brain. This is always fun. No, you're good. I love this. Maybe the best way to tell is to see if something that should be good news is actually good to them. If I say X conspiracy doesn't exist, then conspiracy theorists should be happy it doesn't. Mm, interesting. That's all the times that I have probably given off horrible vibes. So sorry. Like, goddamn. Um, Thank you for the super chat. Deception Detective has interesting videos. I think it would make wait, where is this? Hold on. Let me put you up there. J-Pot says, "Deception Detective has interesting videos. I think it would make good content for you to review. His Madeline McCain series is a good place to start." I'll definitely check it out. Um, sorry, trying to make sure did I follow that? She brought it up and responded to my comments. Wait. Is it more important to be able to refute their statements at face value? Hold on, let me go up. I feel like I'm really. Oh no, I'm not that behind. You can bring your SJW, bring it. Keeps me, I always say, it keeps power at bay. And what I mean is like there's a symbiotic relationship when you have far left, far right, like very extreme ends. And or you can look at it like religious and then secularist. It's like they're so necessary, both of them, in order to keep one side that wants to lean a certain way, keeps them at bay, keeps people accountable. So I actually encourage people, even if it's fucking crazy, bring it. I should probably not say the word crazy. We don't need secularists. Oh, fuck. God damn. You know, I was just recording before I came on this video because on my Substack, I was writing about anti-Semitism, Hitler, Christian theology. One of my favorite topics, actually. And there was like a point in history that, well, actually, like very early on, when Christian theology wanted to separate from Judaism, which was technically like the original one, putting it in TLDR terms, the original religion, it went from like actions being deemed evil to the personification of Jews being evil. And it's absolutely been at the bedrock or at the core of why people even today treat that marginalized group in particular a certain way because it was originally embedded in this doctrine. I think it was 1960s where they finally like removed it or at least tried to deconstruct it. But shit, like that shit still exists. And so my point to that is during one of the worst times in history, the Holocaust in particular, probably when was the Enlightenment? Right before that, where people started to value reason. However, that belief that Jews are inherently evil, which is so not true, just to be clear, but because that still persisted and nobody really checked it yet, it carried into reason and reason. So, like, even in religious contexts, they persecuted, but even in a secular environment, persecuted. So, but who has a better chance at recognizing that it's probably not true? I would vote that at least modern medicine, right? Hold on. Modern medicine always is evolving, but typically religion doesn't. And so there's like a beauty to that subjectivism. I don't know how to word it. Something that I've noticed is that in YouTube debates, specifically in episodes where I've reacted to Andrew debating on whatever podcast with like pretty well-known secularists, I can't, Farhad's one of them. It seems like people are afraid to, and maybe I'm just assuming, I don't know for sure, but like it seems like people hesitate, at least with Andrew, to be subjected to moral subjectivism. And I'm like, "Why though?" Because it changes. There's beauty in change, y'all. I just wish, more people would lean into it. At least in school, like, most moral frameworks have holes in them. They do. But, like, I just wish more people would, like, lean into it. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. You saying we don't need secularists, I think they're absolutely necessary in order to mitigate violence. And if you would like to know more about that, you can go read my Substack. Carl Gustav Jung was from a city just 20 minutes away with the train from my place. Oh, no shit. Um, the way this world is and how everyone treats one another tells me I'm definitely in the right religion. The seventh, how do I pronounce this? The seventh Hawkage, for sure. But just because I'm an atheist, um, I hope that you don't need blind obedience to behave a certain way, assuming that I believe in free will, which I don't. But some of the most understanding people that I know personally in terms of, when I had to get someone into mental health treatment, like people who actually cared, I always say I attribute it to the Christians. And it's like when I was homeless, I was allowed to stay at the church. And but then there's also moments where I think some of the beliefs are harmful. I gotta do more research on, like, sexual orientation because I don't know. Are any of the gays going to church? My favorite skits, com comedic skits. I forget his name. Jacoby? Jacoby? He's, like, this super cute, like, super gay, love him, comedian. He talks about how his dad's, like, hardcore masculine and just, um, like, treated him differently. It was funny, but he talks about, like, just the way he talks about religion is hilarious. I can't think of an example. We can watch it later, just remind me. And fucking when I worked at a nightclub in Las Vegas, and it was in the Fruit Loop. That's what, we called it. There were, like, 3 nightclub bars right off the strip that were they carried, like, drag shows. I just called it a gay nightclub. I don't know. So much fun. And just I I'm trying to think, like, oh, yeah, the Christians always get scared of the gays, gonna take your kids and shit. I'm just thinking, how else are they? How else are they? I gotta find this skit. It will convey what I'm trying to say way better. Um, where are all my fellow hyper secularists who want to see a separation from church and religion? Shake my damn head. Joker, hi. Good to see you. Many of the infamous Austrian painters' live speeches have been translated into English with AI and have been interesting to listen to, likely because the German language sounds harsh to non-speakers. Love you, Don. You can just say I'm pretty. Just kidding. Great, don't forget the like. Yes, please like the video. Uh, we've known right from wrong for thousands of years. No moral values have been added in recent history, says Boogerman. If we know right from wrong, hold on. If we know better, then why do people still commit shit? Why do people still drink and drive if they know better? you know, to indulge. No, I don't think so. But again, hot take. I understand that that can be it's a very contentious issue, so I don't wanna go too much. Why are you an atheist? Mm, because I've seen how when religion ends up in the wrong hands, first, like, hand experience, I've learned that, um, it can be used to harm others. Now, do most people with regular capacity do this? Probably not. Okay. It's a very fringe, very, very fringe population, but it only takes one to commit an act of violence with a gun and multiple victims. You know what I mean? You were allowed to stay in the church parking lot. They offered to like help me get a job and everything. And I was like, oh no, I'm good. Just heal. Just gonna heal my way. Um, we all have a choice in life and we don't force anyone to do anything. It's completely up to anyone. We choose to no, I choose to stay in my religion. I mean, I've seen religion absolutely, uh, what's the word? Absolutely benefit people's lives. So I'm not even discounting it. Like, we believe the same thing. I just don't, uh, think that I need somebody like God to dictate it. That's all. That name sure ages well. I went through a hard atheist phase through HS College. Was a huge Christopher Hitchens fan. Now rediscovered Catholicism in my 30s. Hey, whatever works. Just because I say I don't believe in something or maybe you don't believe in like the magical part of it doesn't mean that it can't be beneficial, right? It's just that I try to tell somebody to you can't believe in something if you don't believe in it, right? I don't know. Yeah, I get way too much in my head on this topic. Keeps me up at night. Are all sinners are all sinners and equal in God's eyes? Recognize God in our sins. Mm. You pronounce my last name like this. Hokag. Hokag. Okay, Hokag. You don't need religion. You need Jesus. Bless your heart. Um, what religion in particular, if you don't mind me asking? Being religious is worshiping the institution. Having a relationship with Jesus and then sharing fellowship keeps you in a good place. How do you differentiate between how should I word this? I can't. I just so deeply want to talk about the biological underpinnings of religiosity, but like I won't. I won't. Oh, I want to though. I won't do it though because I don't like. I really don't want it to be contentious. Follow my Substack. That's where I talk about fringe shit. But anyways, um, okay. You know what I like to listen to are testimonies. So if you have one and you can summarize it in less than 250 characters, please put it in the chat. Oh God. Oh God. That name just like, I feel it. How do we know from right? Wait, Tyrone says, do we know right from wrong when we live in the gray areas? I don't think it. I think people would behave anyway. I think criminals would commit crimes, whether they know right from wrong, and then those who have a propensity to not be violent won't be. So just because I don't think that people have control over behavior doesn't mean that they shouldn't be absolved of responsibility, but it's certain, and I don't think that society would break out in a purge. Like, it's like, step back. If I say that it doesn't matter right from wrong, I'm usually met with, if there's no right and wrong, how do you keep people from tearing up the streets, like purge, killing people? And it's like, well, first of all, says more about your view on people. I just don't think anything would change. Those who have a propensity for violence are going to be violent and commit the act regardless, and then those who are not are not. Go debate Andrew Wilson or Made by Jim Bob, atheist. They both stream almost every day. For sure. I'm down. What kind of atheist is Jim Bob? Is he a determinist or no? What we know as Christians is total lies. Look at all of the miracles that Jesus did. By those miracles, the miracles that Jesus did, you can't buy. What's that saying? Wait. So, like, I think it's just a coincidence that we attribute more meaning to. And I don't think it's necessarily like a bad thing. I just think it's like maybe a little defected that humans do that, but at the same time, it brings like peace. But it's like, how do you differentiate? No, I won't do it. I won't do it. I just want to bring up OCD so badly, but I won't do it. I won't do it because I'm not being thoughtful. Or you can say miracles is magic, which have the religion change. But it's like back in the day before we had technology, people thought that an anti-Semitic belief actually was that Jews were poisoning wells and people for like, hold on, the Black Death, widespread, horrible, people dying. They blamed it on a specific marginalized community and said that they were poisoning the wells. It sounds absurd. It is absurd. It's like, how do you come to that rationale? Why is that the first way, arguably? And when I say first, I mean like back in the day. Like that's how we first attributed it. It's like, have we really stopped doing that? Because if we did, why do we have witness protection programs? I always hop. It's like, Tori, what do you mean? Witness protection. Well, why do we have specific witness protection programs that keep the mob from finding out who you are? To me, it doesn't matter how much technology we have. We still operate with like a lizard brain. And so with that, it's like, how do we know that what we know now isn't magic still? And that is an area that I don't recommend anybody goes thinking about. Oh, they're both orthos. Oh, okay, for sure. For sure. And then how do you differentiate between somebody in a psychosis with religious beliefs and then somebody who's just religious? I can tell a distinction, but I don't think most people can. I don't think most people, and not that I'm better. I hope nobody has to experience um, witnessing somebody go in psychosis, but like historically, we have not been patient with mental illness. We're just not. We just quickly, they should have known better, blah, 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 whatever. And so, where was I going with that? Jesus. Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. So, how can you differentiate? So, it's like, I don't have the language to explain how I can tell a differentiation, but I know it when I see it. And that's really scary, right? Because how do you know for sure? I was there. But we literally don't have the language other than maybe they spew some religious shit at the wrong time. So the only way that I could think of is like if like you have a family member that gets up during Thanksgiving, takes off their clothes and says, "I'm the Messiah," is probably not a good time. They're probably dealing with something like mental illness. But then if that's the case, so if we can like recognize that that's a situation, then how can you not recognize that in normal cases? You know what I mean? I didn't explain that well. But it's like, what, they hear voices at the right time? That's a little discriminatory. I don't know. Anyways, it's not what the video's about. You're okay, baby. You're okay. When you say A, like, hey, I got an A on my test. Oh, wait, fuck. Hokage? It's like, yeah. Suki al mio cazzo, putana. I'm just kidding. You're part Italian. Catholicism would be fun as an Italian wife. Think of all of the gossip and red wine after Mass on Sunday. If I ever meet somebody who wants me to convert to a religion, I don't know, that prenup's going to be extra hefty. Okay? You got me converting. I gotta go to church and shit. God damn it. How am I supposed to go? Who do you talk to when you're confessing all your sins? I got a lot of sinning. You got time? Like, what? Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Okay, deal. Priest. Thank you. I'm gonna just go in there and fuck with the priest for a little bit. I'm just thinking of horrible thoughts. Hold on. Okay, let's do the Tim Pool thing. Because that's what this video was originally about. Okay. Tim Pool and Andrew Wilson on human rights. Okay. We talked about it earlier. We were going to do a dedicated video. I don't know if I would call this dedicated at this point, but it's fine. I'm fine. So if you missed it, I explained how people in the comments were calling Tim Pool stupid. And while I am not particularly a fan of Tim Pool, and I've dragged him on so many topics before, he was engaging relatively well. When we talk about morals and ethics, it's a very tricky subject. It really is, especially if like you don't have any foundation in it. Like, come on, one philosophy 101 and you get me. But like if you haven't done that yet, it's like, why does it matter? It does, because then these conversations happen. And the only way I can like, how do you know if you've dealt with this. It's like if it's kind of obvious when you talk past each other in terms of like moral frameworks. At least that's what I've observed on YouTube. But anyways, so it seems like Andrew's audience, I'm assuming, or it's just maybe it's Tim's audience too, is saying that Tim's too stupid for this shit. I was honestly surprised at the engagement. It's a tricky topic. They were talking a little bit past each other, but they were so close. They eventually got it. And then Tim fucking cut it off. I was like, no, I love this shit. Let's watch it again.
As a United States citizen, this idea of rights as a United States citizen, these are really just constructions of the mind. There's no such thing as an actual right. It doesn't exist outside of some axiomatic kind of philosophical principled belief, right? I have the axiom that I have inalienable rights, and so therefore I have them.
Disagree.
Okay, and we can get into that in a second. But to finish my point, okay, based on this, we kind of suspend them all the time and then kind of pretend like we don't. We let cops be judge, jury, and executioner in many moments and kind of excuse them from it. If there's something which is going on that's in such a state of emergency, we'll suspend the constitutional rights of people in a moment's notice. We'll send the Japanese to internment camps. We will do all of those things because we've done it. We'll suspend your constitutional rights in a second if we think we need to, which, by the way, that would be my argument for how I know rights aren't real anyway. But we will, and we just kind of excuse it.
But there's a correction here. Government enshrined protections are not real. Rights that we, as we know them, are just things that we recognize as things of value to us. So for instance, I usually define it as simply, you have a right to speak freely. If you're in the middle of the woods and you're buck naked, you can say whatever you want. You have a right to keep and bear arms. Pick up a stick, sharpen it, pointy stick, you can defend yourself. Ain't no one going to stop you. The question is, when you get into conflict with someone else, where is that line drawn? So the reality is, rights are recognized as things that we can and must do to survive and maximize potential.
I think rights are force, and I think that
you think rights are force?
Government
rights
protection.
What do you mean rights are
You're
force?
You're talking about government protection.
No, I'm talking about period. I'll explain what I mean. A right to me is an entitlement absent duty. That's a right. Okay, you're entitled to it, but you have no duty.
What does that mean?
It means that you have it. So, like, okay,
entitlement to speak.
Yeah. So if you have a right to own a gun,
to speak.
No, hang on. Let me finish. If you have a right to own a gun, do you have a duty to own a gun?
What do you have a duty to speak?
No, you don't have a duty to speak.
If you have a right to vote, do you have a duty to vote?
So right. So it'd be an entitlement.
That's your argument.
It's an entitlement,
but
absent a duty.
But you can speak.
Yeah, you can.
And so
until you can't,
the question
until somebody stops you with force.
So you're talking about government restrictions are made up by us as a people.
Just people can adhere to your rights without any form of government. If you're walking down the street and you speak, and a guy turns around and smacks you in the mouth and breaks your jaw, right? He has now used force against whatever this right you think you have to speak. You have no right to do shit except whatever you can enforce. Right. Your mechanism is force, and the mechanism against you is force.
And so
all rights are force.
You're talking about government protections, not rights.
No, I'm talking about rights. What?
Just like hearing this again, can I be a little weird? Andrew, I feel like this is such a slippery slope. Because now I have thoughts of like, so then why do people believe in religion? A god, a deity, if you will, if they don't know for sure they exist? And I'm talking like a tangible, see it. I'm not taking the Christian, the little house where they, with the chair. I'm not thinking about that. Okay. It's like, you're going to take somebody's word for it. Do you think people are faulty? Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you think most people are good? Clearly not, if you think that most people, like secularists, for instance, need religion because we're horrible and whatever. My point is, slippery slope. Slippery slope. Anyways. Essentially, it's like, why should people behave absent of God? Like we were talking about earlier. Just getting there.
What is a right?
So it is an intrinsic moral function.
Well, okay. Or intrinsic meaning what?
It means if again, I'll try to explain. If you're born and you live in the middle of the woods, there are things you can do. You can hunt for food. You can defend yourself. You can speak freely. Now, what we've done in the United States
Unless
is
you're born blind and you can't talk, right? Then where does your right to speak come from?
you lack the ability to speak,
Right.
but you still have the
Andrew's really fucking good at being able to come up with like on the spot. That's like goals. Being able to come up with like, well, so then why this? I don't know how you do it like that. I feel like I talked my way out at the beginning of this video, but essentially like how to, I guess if you go into situations with more provocation, that's not the word I'm thinking of, but if you go in there, which he did, it was giving like, let me provoke. I think that's why at first it didn't seem like Tim was receptive to it, or it seems like he's not. The tone, Andrew. Fix it. I'm just kidding. I love this shit. I'm just like, how do you do that? Probably experience.
the means by which you are allowed to do it.
Yeah, but what makes it an intrinsic right to be able to do? Like, where does this idea come from other than you axiomatically kind of just
Evolution?
say,
Naturalistic law theory, social construct theory, moral intuition. But Torrie, yeah, I know, but this is where if he asks you this is where you go. Okay? It's like Tim's gonna argue naturalistic law theory because it's like survival. Humans are going to do what's best for kin in order for optimization.
you say because I can do something, I have the
Which was a shocking answer. Like, I was honestly shocked. Maybe he prepared. I don't know. But like most of the time when I hear Andrew go down this line of questioning, it's usually when it's like, so how do you ground your morality? It's like secularists, for instance. They kind of feel. It's like, well, feelings change. And it's like, be very careful before you think tradition and doing something because we think it's the right thing isn't bad. But anyways, I digress. But it's like, because it shifts. And I get it. But like, I forgot. I can't land. What was I saying? Forgive me.
right to do something.
It's part of a evolutionary biological structure.
Oh, usually it's when like Andrew he'll like walk you down your morality, make sure you're consistent.
Resulted in the survival of humanity.
So if I like grab a spear and I can stab somebody with it, I have a right to.
I like literally would never expect, like, no offense, Tim Pool, God love you, but I was shocked hearing him go down and actually take this stance. Do you guys think he prepared? I don't know. Does everybody, when people know they're going to go up against Andrew, is that what they do? They're like, I got to get clear on morality. Fuck. Why? Torrie, where do you get your morality from? Me, bitch. Now bow down.
No,
No,
that's
why?
That's attacking
different.
somebody. That's violating.
Yeah, but other
that's a
than
whole
an
bunch-
axiom of you shouldn't do that because I just don't feel like you should, what makes it intrinsic that I don't do that?
Andrew, stop being a nerd with the axiom.
that you don't go and kill another person.
Yeah.
So the way I view rights would be things that and again, there's a debate over what rights are.
Yeah, let's start with that. What are they?
No. So there, it's honestly difficult to define,
Yeah.
but it is certain moral structures or
I would
things
say
that are-
axioms. Would you agree with that? Just an axiom. So like you have inalienable rights from God according to the Constitution. This is an axiomatic principle.
So now I hear him say that. That he lost me. So there is a Bill of Rights with religion. Forgive me.
It means this is our like philosophical starting point is that we have these.
I would put it as things that were required or greatly beneficial to the survival of an individual that we
Oh, duh. Of course they do. I'm fucking slow. Never mind. Ignore that last part.
greatly benefit.
I agree.
Like,
I agree. We
it's-
benefit. I just don't know what makes them intrinsic or like you're born with them or something like this, other than we just kind of agree to it.
So
Andrew. This is when I would ask Andrew. I'm just kidding. Is this the dead body question. It's like, why don't you fuck a dead body? I mean, he would say, what? Because, wait, what's the justification for religion? To respect the death. Is it an autonomy thing? Actually, let me Google that.
I think the restrictions we kind of agree to. And some people might view some things as rights and other things not as rights. Like the left thinks healthcare is a human right, which makes literally no sense.
No sense.
But in terms of your ability to speak, you can walk around, you can speak, to defend yourself, you can pick up a stick, you can defend
But
yourself.
this goes back to the same argument. I can grab a spear and murder somebody. I can do that. Why?
Hearing that again, too. It's like the left thinks that healthcare should be universal. And it's like, well, if in the beginning of that line of questioning, Tim, you're saying that because you want to benefit the evolution of society and not like essentially harm, not kill. It's like, if that's where you're going, well, now I know that if I bring up something about universal healthcare, I could just own you right now. I love watching this a second time.
Why don't I have a right to do that?
Because you are now causing harm to another person, which is a detriment.
But why is that valuable?
Why are other people valuable?
Yeah, well, why would that be an intrinsic value? So like I can
one would result in the end of humanity and one results in the expansion of humanity.
Well, no, both can result in the expansion of humanity.
Right, but absolutely not. You're completely wrong.
No, I'm completely right.
You are wrong. Self-defense can result in expansion of humanity if you're using destruction for the purpose of ending something that is destructive. But if you are wantonly going around murdering people, you're actively reducing and harming humanity.
Well, okay, but that doesn't.
I kind of get where Andrew's going, because as soon as he said that, it's like, but who made you God to decide? Oh, yikes. Sorry.
So it doesn't. I don't want to go there. Expand humanity by harming people. There's
so the argument of self-defense is there are things that we believe we must be able to do for the betterment and survival of humanity.
Yeah, but when I'm asking you this question, right? I'm asking the foundation from which you say I have the right to speak or write.
We need to be able to in order to survive.
Because
wait a minute, what does God say about enforcement and force and violence? I remember I said it in the earlier when we first watched it, but it was a way later. I was just like, wait a minute. If that's true, and it is, I'll grant it. I agree with it. Then that's kind of like making the people God. And I don't know the language to explain that, damn it. Right? Think about it. Think about it in terms of like a smaller enforcement arm. Think of like the military. It's like if the military gets to decide when to execute force, then they're playing God. I don't like it. Fix it.
You need to do something.
So
I'm not sure how that means you have a right to it, though.
Okay, so speech is not
like you have to
saying
eat.
Words.
You have a right to eat?
Yes, 100%.
Really? You have a right to do that?
Why would you
Yes,
not
you don't have a right to own.
So if I have,
but you have a right to eat, otherwise you'll die.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Do you have a right to breathe? What about breathing?
Well, these are good questions. Right?
Again, I don't think you understand. We're talking about intrinsic behaviors that are required for survival versus the government and humans deciding what we shouldn't have.
I don't think we're speaking past each other. I'm asking what makes them intrinsic. When you say I have a right to eat, okay?
If you don't, you'll die.
If you have if that guy has all the food over there, you no longer have a right to eat.
We're not talking about your right to steal from others. If you are
so you no longer have a right to eat.
If you're
listen, Tim,
standing in the woods by yourself, eat that mushroom.
Okay, got it. You can eat the mushroom. But what makes it a right to eat that mushroom, and what makes it not a right for guy standing next to the mushroom to say?
Now that I'm watching this again, is Tim just playing defense then? Like the line of, so the conversation itself, I thought was really productive. The issue, watching it a second time, if I didn't address this part, the issue is that Andrew's asking a question in a multitude of ways. And now I'm watching it again. I'm like, is Tim just obfuscating because he doesn't want to answer that it might be a social construct? It's okay. It's okay. It's just like, why would you avoid it?
Hey,
Okay,
I have a
you're talking
gun
about laws.
and I don't want
Okay,
you
wait,
to
hold
eat
on.
that mushroom.
You're now once again talking about laws and restrictions.
Yeah, okay, but my whole
That was hot. Okay. That is a very difficult concept. Hot. Still is.
my whole theory is that rights themselves are force, and that's all they ever are. It's just your ability to use force to do thing you want to do.
I think you're just making
You call that a
argument
right.
I call rights things that are essential to the survival of humanity.
So you have a right to your heart beating and your blood flowing and to blink and to.
Yes.
Okay, so if you
So
just.
now you misunderstand because once again, you're talking about government again.
How is this
Pause.
government? It doesn't
Okay,
need to be
If
government.
you are standing in the middle of the woods and your heart is beating,
Mhm.
your heart has a right to beat. If your heart fails and you die, you died. If you're making an argument that someone should or should not be allowed to do something is an entirely human social construct.
So I just like, I didn't catch that the first time. This isn't a should. This is no ought. Watch your language. Easy for me to fucking say in this position, but
construct.
I agree.
Right. I'm saying that the reason we have protections of rights
Mhm.
is because we've determined certain things are required for the reasonable survival and expansion of humanity.
Yeah, I
These
agree.
things-
wait. Why did you agree with that, Andrew?
Agree to those things, and we act as though they're rights.
And the Bill of Rights.
But I don't think rights themselves exist.
The Bill of Rights is a recognition of certain things that we do for the betterment of survival that must be protected from government. Now, if you want to argue the amendments in the Bill of Rights are nonsensical,
You know
fine.
how funny this is to me? A better example, let's not use humans because dogma is like our fucking biggest disease, but imagine bees. Okay. I don't know much about bees, but I do know that a bee is born and it is serving a queen, bitch. Me. It's serving me. And it's making honeycomb in a hive and pollinating and shit. How did it know to do that? Like, that's intrinsic. There's something that makes you operate in that way. That's with any animal kingdom, insect kingdom, anything. Why do we think we're different? Genuinely. I feel like a fucking conscious thought. When I was saying dogma, it's like the ability to think we know what we're doing. Play with me for a moment. It's like people will behave and behave. We can keep saying what the right thing to do is, but people will just behave. Ugh.
If you want to have a moral argument or philosophical argument about what is required or intrinsic to the survival of humanity, by all means have that argument. But rights do exist. It just means some you might not agree with and some you might think aren't. Those are philosophical debates.
Yeah, but
A natural law theory, Tim.
when you say exist, right? Do you mean outside of your brain they exist, or do they only exist as a construction of your mind where you say, I have a right to do X?
If we observe creatures in the wild, we will see them required to do things to survive.
Yeah. Okay. So
if you inhibit those things, they will die.
So if just right
naturalistic
protect those things.
So the rights to you just mean things which are a requirement for your existence?
And typically we define them as such because they transcend the basic obvious things like breathing and drinking water.
Owning a gun isn't a requirement to your existence.
No, defending yourself is.
Yeah, but
if a bear comes in the middle of the woods and you don't have the ability to defend yourself, you cease to exist and humans cease to exist. So humans do defend themselves. Then as human society, we've decided this should be protected. Otherwise humans will cease to exist.
Yeah, but why? Okay, but this makes no sense, right? So if all right is to you, Tim, is thing X, which is necessary for the survival of a man, in this case, blinking and breathing and eating and, pooping and whatever, the right to poop shall not be under, because you have a right to do that because it's like something you need to do to be alive.
Right. But you can't poop on someone's floor.
Why couldn't you?
I think it's, I feel like Andrew's leading with, what did he, rights are entitlements, absent duty. So that's not necessarily wrong, but it doesn't cover all of it, right? But why doesn't it cover all of it? I don't have the language for that. But I know that's true. Hold on. Entitlements. I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, why can't you just concede? Just concede. And I forget that there's... Wait a minute. What is his moral framework? Like Tim's?
Extend that to literally everything. You need healthcare to survive. You need guns to survive. You need a house to survive. You need everything to survive.
I think we should move on, but I think the challenge is, I don't know if you're unwilling to understand or what. You have no right to take other things from other people, to take their labor. You have no right to force a doctor to perform surgery on you, but you certainly have a right to ask him for it.
Those are just assertions. Like, you just assert these things as though they have a grounding epistemic foundation from which you can make the assertion. Based on where do you make the assertion that you're not allowed to do X other than because Tim Pool's preference is that you don't?
And
well, Tim said because then you would die. Right?
I'm literally saying you're talking about laws and social order right now, not human behaviors for survival.
I think human behaviors are laws and social orders. I think that's this. You're saying the same thing.
No, if a person was in the middle of the woods, they'd be foraging and looking for food.
Yeah. What does that have to do with what I just said?
You're talking about what the government
human
can and can't do. I'm talking about what humans need to do to survive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, humans also have to have other humans around to survive.
And so this is
fight.
Communication is essential. The right to defend yourself is essential. The right to secure your possessions is essential. These things, without them, humans cease to function properly. And then you get the Soviet bloc, you get starvation, you get genocides.
It's also just a detriment it's a function of our belief system in the United States that we have natural rights. I mean,
I agree with that.
That's a huge part of it.
I agree with that. I agree with that, that in the United States, we agree that we have them.
You can say, I think you can
not
say that
sure that
everyone,
we do.
I think that you can say that everyone has these rights and it's a function.
So, like, I personally have a rights-based moral framework, if you will. So, yeah.
Of whether or not their government allows the rights to be recognized.
That's the contention. When you say, I think everybody has these rights.
Yeah, that is my belief.
Yeah, it's a belief.
Yeah.
Based on
existence. I mean,
based on just your preferences.
So there.
It's a belief based on your preferences. The same could be said about Andrew, though. That's why it's like, why are you going that way?
I don't think it's preference. I think
it's like, so you believe in God, even just because a lot of people do, even though you've never seen him, you probably couldn't walk on water. And if you did, you're probably in psychosis. No offense, love you. There's medication to help and treatment available. But I'm just saying, like, that's such a slippery slope. You know what I mean?
Everyone has a right to breathe.
And you do. And in the big picture of what are the list of fundamental rights that exist to humans, cultures debate these things wildly, but there are a small handful which are true and correct. If inhibited, a person dies.
Agreed. But what I'm saying, I guess my overarching point, and I can just kind of tie it off
society
with
fails,
is that when I say rights are forced, what I'm saying is the thing that you say is necessary, breathing, eating, these types of things. I think that those things, which you call rights, really are just force. You're saying I will use force in order to do this thing that I want to do to necessarily exist. And that another person can use force to stop those things from existing.
And then you can use force.
Okay. And what's the point, though? I'm getting distracted. I'm just thinking to myself, okay, but in Catholicism, the threat of an endless eternity in hell sounds like manipulation and gaslighting to me. What's your point, Andrew?
To stop that.
Right, and then you can use...
I think the best jokes, personally, come between atheists and religious debaters. They're my favorite. If anybody has good ones, put them below.
Force, et cetera, et cetera. But all we're really doing is just moving the goalpost of force around, right? So if this group says this group does not have the right to breathe, they do not have the right to eat, they do not have the right to do any of this shit, and they go and put a stop to it.
But you don't.
What are we appealing to for why it is that you can't do that?
But like, y'all have a belief. I'm generalizing because I don't, hold on. But y'all believe that you will have an endless eternity in hell if you don't follow religion. If you got to trick your people to follow you, why are you so blindly obedient to think that's the right way? Yeah, and you have a belief that this man who could do things you haven't seen anybody be able to do has somehow put on the lover boy method, and he's not even here to do it. What does it say about y'all? You know? It's like, I don't know. I'm getting too lost in the songs.
Group doesn't have the right to do that.
Yeah, but that makes no sense.
Like
Why wouldn't they have the right to do that?
I feel like
saying might makes right, which is
it's beyond that. I think you're making a
postmodernist
argument for why you should be allowed to do things that other people don't want you to do.
I think I think the opposite is true.
I
would use a justification of God, and I would appeal to something which is unchanging and an unchanging standard for moral justifications for oughts. But what you're doing when you say a right and you're appealing to like the Constitution, that's postmodernist subjective standards of nonsense, right? It's just like,
no, it's moral.
We all decided that we have these rights, so we do. There's no justification for any of them.
For sure. I understand. However, it's like the thing I was talking about earlier, like 1960s, where they had to go over this belief that Jesus was killed by the Nazareth. I can't even think right now. I need food. Not good. They had to completely change their kind of like a foundational belief. So you do change. You just like to slide it under the rug and hope nobody notices. And yet people still behave as if it does exist, which is even worse because even with new information, y'all can't seem to adapt. Love you. Just thinking. It's like, why are you coming for rights? And then let's say it does go down the enforcement arm. Why? Why does that matter? I would just walk through the whole thing of force. Last time I checked, and his position may have changed. You know, I caught it in a video, but I remember when it was between whatever podcast, women and Andrew, and the concept of enforcement and how men are the only ones that can enforce it. It's like somebody had asked, what about a gun? You know, which is a great question. It's an equalizer, right? And he said no, because men could still overpower. Like, okay, but you also believe that a God who walks on water and does all this magical shit is going to keep you in check. What makes you think that women couldn't manipulate men to do the same, to never be violent? See, it's losing me. I'm being crazy.
So you don't believe in any intrinsic moral foundations?
No, I do believe in intrinsic moral foundations and epistemic.
But so what fucks me up, side note, as like a determinist, is like, so how do you justify teaching kids right from wrong? That's a good question. You know, I think about that often. It's like, should we teach them? I know it technically doesn't matter, but a lot of parents would disagree with me. And it's probably good to have that foundation. I don't.
Justifications and ontological justifications, which would come from God.
I think you're doing deconstructivist reasoning to argue why.
It's just basic philosophy. It has nothing to do with deconstruction or postmodernism. Basic philosophy, you have to have a justification for a position.
And when I've given you one, you just reject it every time.
Well, because they're
Is Andrew live right now?
Axiomatic. So you haven't demonstrated why the axiom or the starting point. We start with rights, Andrew. You haven't demonstrated why we do, other than because I observe that if we don't act in this way, you expire. But it's like, okay, but why is that even bad? Like, why is that even a bad thing?
Why is it bad that humans cease to exist?
Yeah, why would that even be a bad thing from the worldview of rights? Like, oh, okay, if you don't have this right, you die, but you haven't justified why that's even a bad thing.
Because
Can I rewind that part?
Thing.
Why is it bad that humans cease to exist?
Yeah, why would that even be a bad thing from the worldview of rights? Like,
this goes back to the concept of blame and punishment. I just don't know how. Because it's like, are you sure you want to go there? I love this shit.
oh, okay, if you don't have this right, you die, but you haven't justified why that's even a bad thing.
Because humans exist through a pattern of evolution towards, or creation, whichever you decide, for to be fruitful, to bear fruit, and etc. These things are components of creation and life. I think this aligns perfectly with like a Christian, Judeo-Christian moral worldview. And I think these things are requirements for the efficient expansion and fruitfulness of humans. So they are natural, either from an evolutionary standpoint. Humans developed to inherit certain requirements to function efficiently. And when these things are curtailed, we see inefficiency and collapse, disease, and chaos.
This is circular. So you go, okay,
bold of you, Andrew.
We need to
bold of you. I'm just gonna keep saying
it. Bear fruit and multiply. Why? Well, because then we can exist. Why do we need to exist? Because then we can bear fruit and multiply. Okay, but why? Because then we can exist.
You're just being contrarian for no reason.
No, it's not contrarian. I'm giving you a real principle.
You believe in God?
And this is where Tim, I think, was kind of triggered and just like not following it and not wanting to answer it. I wish he would have been like chilling.
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
So if I say God gives you a mandate,
Christian.
so when God says has a mandate to be fruitful and multiply, do you say yes or no?
Yo, of course.
Are there certain characteristics and behaviors that result in benefit and in more efficient, fruitful multiplying?
Of course.
Aren't the, so are
that's
those
divine? But this is, hang on, this is divine command. Justification from divine command has nothing to do with libertarian nonsense of constitutional egalitarianism.
I think instead of having a discussion on the merits of what rights might mean, you're instead upset over what libertarians think rights might mean, as opposed to what I'm actually trying to say.
Okay, well, do you justify rights as coming from God?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, then we're fine there. But so I think we actually agree. So then if that is the case, if whatever you think rights are,
I did not realize that he said yes to that question the first time we watched
come
it.
from God, then whatever else we're appealing to external to God for where a right comes from isn't really a right, right? It's not really a right.
I think that life, goodness, creation, there is deep overlap. I think a simple way to look at it is, yin yang. Within good there is some evil, within evil there is some good.
Mm-hmm.
And a way to explain that is sometimes we have to destroy to create. What does that mean? If there's a mass murderer who's murdering children, we don't want to, but we stop that person to defend ourselves and others' lives. I think that there is divine mandate that we must, be fruitful, multiply. We are here to organize, to create. There's a secular way of looking at it. It's evolution that developed us to this point where we have internalized these things that we must do, or that result in a more efficient way of life. Or more simply, there is a God, there is a divine structure and mandate, which results in.
I have a random question that I just thought of. It's like, why, if we know that men or I should say, because it could be if you're like on steroids and shit, but if you give XY steroids, testosterone doesn't necessarily equal aggression, but it makes like a better environment for it. So if we know that men have like a propensity for violence, then why are we, when it comes to acts of, this is so crazy, when it comes to spontaneous, what's the, like manslaughter? No, that's not the word I'm thinking of. Crime of passion. It's like, wouldn't that technically be the default all the time? It's like, well, no, you can demonstrate intent, but it's like, but that's still hormonal. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm fucking starving. This ends in a minute.
and certain things that are beneficial to mankind that I would describe as good and just, and there are things that are evil and unjust.
So as we get to the heart of it then, right here, where we come to this agreement, where I reject this, is that I think all the things you just stated are duties. They're duties, they're the opposite of rights. You have a duty.
I just think we're having a semantic argument.
Well, but semantics are super important
Yeah,
so we
are.
don't speak past each other. So when I say a duty, it's an obligation to do a thing based on the fact that you're commanded to, in this case by God. A right, I would say, is an entitlement absent duty. So if that's the case, what you're listing out is like God is giving us these duties to do. I'm not sure what rights he's giving you.
I'm saying there are certain behaviors that God, that there are certain behaviors, there are certain functions of life that are a component of God's divine plan mandate. And I could argue it in a secular way for people who don't believe in God or whatever.
Sure.
There's a natural structure of the universe that says to humans, be fruitful and multiply. And these things are important for the efficient structure of such. That being said, we definitely should talk about, we'll talk about Diddy, but I do appreciate it. I thought that was fun.
It was fun.
But I love the philosophical discussions, but I think the
Wasn't that fun? I wish they would do more of that shit. And just like stay calm. But I get it. Thank you for the super chat. Isn't it easier for anti-theist says, isn't it easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven? If so, then why most pastors rich? Wait, isn't it easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than it is? Oh, Jesus. I don't know. I don't know. You have a duty to survive, not a right. I don't know. I feel like I covered this topic too much. In aggression, Melanie says, in aggression-prone patients, elevated testosterone levels can lead to more aggressive emotional outbursts. Yeah, it's just I don't like to say that it's directly correlated because it can be harmful. There's evidence that it creates like it's almost like giving the crackhead crack, telling it to do this is like that urge. I can't think of the word. Like higher propensity or proclivity. But okay, so wait. That same thing that I can't think of the word, it's like if you inject testosterone in a bunch of shamans, they like buy each other gifts. There's something. Robert Sapolsky said that. It makes you more generous, more likely to, you know what I'm trying to say? More inclined? I feel like that's not right. I never want to hear the word rights again. Correct. Religion was created by man. Also the word Christian for where they can kill their enemies. They're the Christian crusaders. Fun fact, aggression-prone females can exhibit higher rates of aggression when their estrogen is blocked and their testosterone is elevated. Really? Wait a minute. Fun fact, aggression-prone females can exhibit higher rates of aggression when their estrogen is blocked and their testosterone is elevated. Yeah, wait, no, yes. Makes sense. I'm just thinking, because when it comes to like your cycle, your hormones, testosterone, estrogen, they all fluctuate. I like can't even. But I guess it doesn't matter because if estrogen is blocked. See, I always thought women who were prone to violence, I didn't know that like their estrogen. What do you mean by their estrogen is blocked? Wait a minute. I don't want to go there. what blocks estrogen in females? There's medication, right? Are you saying what I think you're saying, Melanie? The variation in levels for typical females isn't enough to drastically affect aggression levels. Ooh. Melanie, can we do an episode on this shit? Rights are made up. We are all debt slaves. Last I checked, slaves don't have rights. You're probably not wrong. How can their estrogen be blocked? So, if I'm understanding or thinking about this correctly, and maybe there's more, but I'm just thinking like, you can have your estrogen blocked, I think, with types of birth control, but then you can also take hormone blockers, like if you transition or something. Because blockers are used during puberty, and we want to avoid. Okay, we'll do an episode on it before I just look like I'm spouting misinformation. I'm thinking out loud. No doctor here. But what else can block estrogen? What else can block estrogen? Because aren't there certain, I know there's certain like chromosome things where you can have like a double Y. And so they say if you have like a double Y, you're more likely to be end up in jail. They did like this study, I can't remember, but they found that men who had more, oh, it's been a minute, something like that. I forget what it's called though. There's like so many different variations of chromosome. It's like you could have two X's and a Y, but then also have this, and it confuses me. All control. Okay, wait. Disorders in sexual dysfunction, a bunch of biological processes that control estrogen before, during, and after menstruation. Oh, yeah. All control estrogen uptake. Unbeyond behavior. Yeah. I'm down. I identify as a potato. For sure. Mr. Potato Head. I'm an old man who wears skirts. I love that for you. So blockers control uptake, not levels, by the way. Oh, so is it kind of like SSRIs? It helps recycle, reuptake and shit. Same mechanism. Can a human go to a barren land and grow a tree without a seed or recreate a seed with nothing? No. Like you would be fun. I'm psycho. Like I'll fuck up your life for sure. An atheist spirit is jealous of other spirits that do walk in fellowship with God. This is the core of the atheist anger. Really ignorant to this. Birth control makes women more aggressive. No, I was thinking out loud about estrogen being blocked. If men today are trying to replica his designs and everything. One thing is fly. He created the birds. Men copy it by making airplanes. Hold up. Hold up. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to get triggered for no reason. You can tell if a woman has taken birth control since it usually takes away lustrous hair. No, it doesn't. It actually helps stimulate collagen. At least collagen. How does it do that though? I don't know. Ask Melanie because I don't know. I think like menopause. Menopause can take away lustrous hair. Can't we just age in peace? I'm just kidding. Replicating nature isn't proof of God. It's proof that nature can form patterns that we can learn from. Right. This is true. Venom. Okay, guys. I have to eat something and then I'll be back. You know what gives back lustrous hair? Proper conditioner. Yeah, there is certain types of, there's like 2 types of balding, and in one circumstance, it's genetic. Okay, there's not much you can do. But in the event that it's the other thing, okay, I can't think of the name, you might benefit from a 2% ketoconazole shampoo. Follow me for more tips. You probably believe in evolution. If that's the case, you would have one X chromosome. Wanna buy tamales? Yes. So, okay. What time is it? 7:26. We'll be back before 9. Yeah. And then we can go over Grace and Ben and whatever the fuck they were doing. I don't know if they got back to me, but we'll see. Like the video, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you later. Okay, bye.